Hey everyone, today we have Rudy Perez, an architect graduate from Woodbury University and has a certificate of construction management from UCLA. He's the owner of the OBED Group, a design, build, and management company. He currently consults for the Jensen Company, and his home designs and home builds have been featured in various magazines. Welcome, Rudy.
Hey guys, thanks for having me here.
No, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man because you also are a father of 3 children.
Three boys. You know, I got 2 twins, age 4, and I got a little one, Luca, age 1. So 2 now. So
yeah, he just turned 2, right?
Just turned 2, October.
Hopefully by the end of our conversation, my wife and I will either be more towards twins or more away from them.
I tend to tell people twins are, it's good. You get 2 babies for 1 pregnancy. You know, I mean, it's a quick lesson in having kids, but after that, they grow up together. So you're going to take them to the same activities together, the school together. So it actually is easier in the long run.
Yeah, I'm sure it is a lot easier in the long run. I've had conversations of like, okay, how many children, like would I want? I don't want a small family because I grew up in a small family, but I definitely want a bigger family. I would say 4. It's hard in California. You got to be making tons of money.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But speaking about California and LA, how about them Lakers?
Oh, dude, I'm so excited.
It's the weirdest season ever, but I'm still happy that, we got, for a couple of reasons, that we won and it's been 10 years. That's one. And then that we got number 17, which ties us with the Celtics. So I'm a big Laker fan. I was a big Kobe fan. So this year, overall, with COVID and Kobe dying was the first thing. It's been a harsh year, it kind of hits home, but been happy to see them. I wasn't a LeBron fan until he joined the Lakers, but he did it for us.
Yeah, man. LeBron, I was always a LeBron fan. I always like, hey, dude, this guy is
from
from
Miami,
day one. Yeah, from Miami, from when he started with the Cavaliers. I'm like, this guy's a monster. Obviously, a lot of people criticize him because like, hey, dude, you couldn't do it on your own. You had to go to like the Heat for your ring.
They just don't like his hairline. But
he has to have something working against him, man. The guy's like a beast, is successful in so many areas. I was like, at least his hairline,
right.
So he's human.
But you should look at it now, though. It came back. It's like, whoa.
He paid for that one.
You're like, hey, I was like, money can buy you a lot of things.
When you make that much money, I need to get there, man, because mine's kind of disappearing. But there's no doubt LeBron is amazing.
Yeah.
He's a beast.
He's great. I know when he came to the Lakers, a lot of people were like, man, like, why did he come to the Lakers? And now everyone's like, go LeBron, you know?
Yeah, you put that jersey on and you become a Laker. Like I told someone, whoever puts it on, if you're a Laker fan, you accept them, you embrace them. Anthony Davis did the same thing. And it's like, okay, this is our team now.
Yep. Even Dwight Howard, because he started, right? And we were like, this is going to be our hero, our savior. And then it didn't turn out so well. And then
he was on the team this year, right?
Like, yes. He actually was a good contributor.
Yeah, he was. And I think it's because he had a little bit of a shift as far as like his persona, and who he is. But I mean, enough talking about the Lakers. Let's kind of dive right into it. Rudy, so you are an architect. You went to school at Woodbury University here in Burbank, which is an amazing school, a private school, a very expensive school for those thinking about
That's
going
the
there.
arts for y'all.
Yeah, right. It's everything you want to do. It's always expensive for the artists. But a lot of people actually think of architecture as just buildings and construction workers and this and that. And I took an art class. And one of the biggest things was just talking about architecture through many years and how the Greeks did it and how, the Enlightenment period happened. And it's just like, it's amazing.
Like when you take an art history class,
when you take art history,
huge, like architecture is a big thing. Man.
It's a big, huge thing. Like back then it wasn't very like, I'm just going to make a building. It was like, I'm going to make a building and make it the most beautiful building ever. And when I went to Spain, I went to, what's the name of that church? La Sagrada Familia.
Yeah,
Gaudi. Dude, that guy was a monster. He was ahead of his time.
Yeah. They still haven't finished that building.
Right?
Yeah. It's still under construction.
That is insane. But I would like you to kind of just chime in a little bit about that, like just architecture as an art form.
I think you hit upon it well. Before there was all these Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, these guys were artists, they were engineers, and they were builders. So they had it all in one package. You had to have the imagination to create it in your head, put it on paper, and then how am I going to make this actually come out? And I think what ended up happening just throughout the time, we all of a sudden said that professional now gets split up into 3. We said, there's the engineer expert, there's the artist in it, and then there's the builder, So I think there's something that was lost along translation, but the architect, truthfully, he starts it all. We imagine the idea in our head. Our client comes to us and said, I need this building for this function. We say, okay, give us your function, how many people you want. Great. So then in our head, we have to come up with the idea. This is what it's going to look like. You put aesthetic into it. You have constraints. You have to work within the city constraints, rules, laws, permits, and you have to make it look good. So that's that process in alone. When you go through education, we touch on every trade. Like we study science, we do physics, we do philosophy, sociology. An architectural degree is extremely balanced. I mean, in the sense of every topic we have to touch, and the way the design process, the way it is. It's extremely complicated. And our degree is actually a 5-year degree. So it's,
I've heard about that. Yeah, the architecture is fun. And you learn stuff like, you have to learn design too, like color, composition and all of that, right?
You can take specific classes, design fundamentals, as you would call them. We have to study every aspect to aesthetics, symmetry, balance, how nature involves in construction, how nature involves in a building, the flow of a building, and all those aspects. I mean, before we even put anything on paper, it's pretty much this imaginative idea in your head you're trying to put and discover, and how do you make this like an actual form? So yeah, it's very much creative.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen buildings like when I'm going to like the hills and the west side, and I'm like, how the heck is that building standing right now?
Oh yeah, like you see them with two little holding it like it's like literally on the edge. It's crazy.
Yeah. Again, every project we attack, I mean, you have different types of lots. So that's a challenge. You have flat lots, you have hillsides like you guys go. And the design principle, how do you anchor that house to that hillside? And in California, earthquake city, literally we approach our codes for city of LA, some of the strictest in the way we build. So that affects your design, that affects your aesthetic. So I said, you have to have the principles of the artist. I want to make it look good, but then I have to put this huge foundation to hold that building. How do you do both?
Yeah, exactly. And well, obviously you went to school for this, but did that passion stir up at a certain age, or did you just decide to like, hey, you know what, I'm going to school for this, might as well do it? I'm sure talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think you get to that high school 17-year-old age and you're like, what's next? Or even when you're kind of thinking of college. I was not a good high school student. I mean, I was all about sports, soccer, living the life, enjoying it.
You do what you need to be in the team. Because I was the same way, I was a C student.
Hey, C's get degrees.
Yeah, C's get degrees. And you know what? I told people that I survived high school, but when I was in that process, I would always build with my hand and think of little things and create stuff with my dad. He was a good influence. We're in the backyard. I mean, we do projects. So I had a knack for that and I enjoyed it. So my mom, I think your parents identify gifts, and she's like, hey, you like to draw? You like construction. She's like, and there was this, she was actually as a maid, she was working for somebody, and the son was an architect, and she was like, hey, I think you'd be interested because I've seen his models and what he's doing. And another friend of hers, also her son was an architect. So she's like, he went to Woodbury, and she's like, I think you would enjoy this. So she showed me kind of what it was about. And I said, yeah, that does interest me. I'm the first college graduate. So when I applied for architecture school, I literally didn't know the process. My high school counselor, she's like, you're not going to go to college. Like, just get a job. Like, she literally said that, and I was like, I think I can go to college. So I went and I applied. I walked in. I said, hey, how do I apply? I have no idea. Nobody's ever done this. They said, you apply here, you talk to here. And I said, I want to be an architect. So I went to PCC, Pasadena City College. That's where I actually started.
You had to take prerequisites, or you just kind of wanted
they had
to start there?
The reason I went to PCC is they had an architecture program and I heard was good. So I had done kind of a little bit of research. Santa Monica, PCC, and then ELAC, East LA College. And for me, Pasadena, based on the route, I lived in Sun Valley, was an easy commute. So it just kind of worked out. When I went there's something called an articulation agreement. They have these articulation agreements with the universities saying, this is your architecture program. If you take these 2 years of architecture classes, you can transfer out. And that's what kind of drew my attention to it. So that's where I ended up, going and applying.
And that's actually more affordable than if you would have just gone straight to Woodbury, right?
If everybody, so there's a trap about community colleges, you guys are aware. People take it as a 4-year degree. They literally go do 4 years for an associate. You get trapped because you can't get classes. So that's why, I did it, but it's way affordable. I mean, when I went, this probably aged me. I was paying $11 a unit, so it was $33 for a class.
Yeah, that's
that
gives it away.
Yeah, right. Because when I was going to community college, I think I was paying like $25 a unit or something.
When did you go? It's $160 now.
Yeah, and that happened within the last not even kidding, the last 7 years, 8 years. I mean, it's gone extremely up. But yeah, it's a good route. I recommend it to people. Like I said, there's no excuse not to get your degree. That's what it is. And just like you said, C's get your degrees. I didn't succeed in high school, but I actually got it. Like I was at a 3.8 when I transferred out because it's what I loved.
Yeah.
Like I did my first architecture class, and I'm telling you, we're just doing models and design work, and I just enjoyed it. I was the first year I was already selected to be a teacher's assistant because it was my thing, and I think I'm fortunate because I enjoyed it that much.
And you were able to actually find it fairly early on. I mean, there's so many people out there that still, 20, 30s, 40s still have no idea what to, they're stuck at a job because they have to provide. But
yeah, a lot of people are in that boat, right? Like they can't afford to like not have a job just because. But the fact that you picked up your craft and you're like, I love this at such a young age, I think it's amazing. I mean, even I think for other crafts or other people out there, like if you really are passionate about it, like work for it,
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
No, passion is everything. I mean, I know we're talking about the arts, but I tell people, whatever you decide to do, like I said, even as a child of God, I think you need to be the most excellent at it. Like whatever the trade is, if you're excellent at it, doesn't matter. It's going to come out and you're going to be successful at that. So that's kind of my thought about that.
Yeah, that's really good. And after you've graduated from Woodbury, what was kind of like your next step? Did you start working? Did you start like looking for clients? What was your next step after?
So it actually kind of happened at PCC. The first year that I got, because of my success, I was really good at creating 3D models. So I'm kind of on the precipice. Before architect was all drawn by hand. And I did learn that principle. So everything, but then right when I entered school, all the technology entered. So all these 3D programs, it's called FormZ, 3D Max. We started to model, all these residents. So you can create some pretty crazy designs. In my first year, I got one of the teacher that was teaching the class. I was very successful. I picked it up like in 3 weeks, and I was doing things like that he didn't know how to do. So he just said, hey, come work for me. So for my first year in the summer, I went to go work at architect DeMaria Design, who's one of my biggest influences, great designer, out of Manhattan Beach. And I worked the summer out there doing models for him, physical models and 3D models. So from there, I worked for him for a couple years. And then just, for architecture school, there's a requirement. You have to have, I'm going to say 900 hours of internship for you to get your degree. So it's part of the requirement for you to work, in your trade in order to get your degree. So I worked pretty much at different firms, and I got picked up along the way in job offers, because of my schoolwork. People see you and then they call you to their professional firms.
That's awesome. But that's a lot of hours, 900 hours.
900 hours.
These guys are serious.
Yeah. I mean, you're building someone's home, man. You don't want that collapsing on you. That would be bad. And when you were doing these internships, were you ever like in a position where you're like, man, I want to start my own thing. I want to go ahead and just do my own thing? Or like, what was kind of your outcome during these internships?
Yeah. DeMaria, like I told Peter DeMaria, that guy, as soon as I walked in, I saw his office. I saw how he lived his lifestyle. He built his own house. And I said, I want to do that. Like, I want this to be my career. And I had worked for other guys where you just sit behind a desk and, you draft. And they literally, when you work for an architect, they give you the menial tasks. The majority of the time, they're like, just draft this. And, you do boxes and move the toilet. This guy said, Rudy, I need you to design this. I need you to make the modifications. And he like opened the world to that. So I was able to kind of do a little bit more, learn a little more. And I said, I want my own business, and he got his general contractor's license. So he became a design build while I was with him. And I said, that's what I want to do. So that's what just grew me since even during school, I'm going to do my design build company.
How does someone get a contractor's license, a general contract license?
State of California, you study for it. It's an exam. It's a one-person exam. It takes about 2-3 hours, but it touches on everything, the basics of a construction. So from the ground, foundation, earthwork, to the framing of a house, to what's called the MEP, mechanical, electrical systems and plumbing, to the roofing. And you have to know a little bit of structure. So calculations, pitch, roof, stuff like that. You have to have experience also. They require, I want to say 2.5 years under a general contractor, and they sign that experience off, and then you can take the test. You pass that test, you get your license.
Oh, wow.
That's cool. And I was going to touch a little bit about your influence there, right? Because obviously he influenced you a lot to start your own thing. But did he influence you in other aspects as far as business goes? Did he teach you anything? Or when you started your own business, were you on your own? Or did anyone kind of guide you through that?
What he taught me is what I think is actually, I didn't know when I started, I didn't know business stuff. I didn't know how to form a corporation. I didn't know payroll. I didn't know the everyday inner workings. But what he taught me was the creative stuff. I mean, he taught me how to talk to clients. He taught me how to get clients, like, how you do meetings. He taught me some contractual stuff, but more I picked that up by just saying, hey, can I read that contract? Like, kind of being curious. But he is a personality. And I think when you're the head of your company, you have to get clients. Like and when you get clients, you got to get the meeting. Someone's got to know what you do. And when you get that meeting, you got to sell. And that guy can sell anything. I mean, you see him, he's likable, he's approachable. And that's what I said, okay, I get it. I get that important aspect of business. And that's, I think, the deepest influence he had on me, more than the actual structure of a company.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, I'm in the sales industry now, and I tell everyone, like, dude, I want my child to be in some sort of sales position, because you learn so much, and you have to sell yourself for whatever it is you're doing, whether you're going for a job interview, even if it's for marketing, even if you're going for whatever it is, you have to sell yourself. It's a good trait to have. Very good trait to have.
So you came out of college, you were working with someone that eventually led to you starting your own thing. How did that happen?
So senior year, I had 3 job offers on the table for my senior year at different firms, because you do a thesis, you present, and a bunch of architects come over. Architects that do well, the majority of the time they get job offers like right out of school.
Like big firms, yeah, big companies.
Medium, big, every type of size. It depends who comes and sees your project, So I had 3 job offers off the table, but since day one, I already knew I don't want to work for anybody. So before I graduated, I established my company as sole proprietor. I was called under ROP Design. And then I said, I'm going to work. And I found a client right out of school. So
wow. How old were you?
23.
Wow.
23 years old.
And you had your first client?
My first client.
That's so cool.
Yeah. My brother introduced me. He said, my brother does construction, because I got my license literally right out of school.
Your contractor's
license. My contractor's license. And this client said, I want you to design my outdoor living space, and that client, he's one of my favorite clients to this day, gave me a chance. He's actually an ex-police chief for LASPD. Amazing guy. His name is Michael Bowman and Sean. They're the greatest couple in the world. I said, design this for us. And they knew I was fresh out of school. Like, they knew. But I was so driven that I just, no challenge got in front of me. So first I had to come up, met with them. I made up contracts. Like, I mean, like you said, as a creative, you just do it all. Like, so I was making the contracts, doing my logo. So graphic design, which is a big part of what we do. So I did graphic design. I did my business cards. Like, first clients, I walk into my meeting with letterheads and business cards. I had never done it, but you take chances, and they gave me the job. My first contract, I think it was a $100,000 contract. That doesn't mean I make $100,000.
Right. Wait. Hold on. Y'all hiring? Hold on.
Yeah.
So, forgive me if I sound, I don't know too much about this world, but they call you. You're the contractor. They say, I want to do this, right? They give you a $100,000 budget. From there, you have to make that happen however you can, right? Like, I'm assuming you have to find people to, you have to buy materials with that too and all of that?
Yeah. So for this project, it was design built. So we had to do both. We had to design it out for them. So, and actually they hadn't told me their budget originally, but they said, this is what we want. What will it cost? So I go back, I said, so it's so much for your design fees. And they signed a design contract. We signed that. I designed it for them. And they said, we'd like the design. After the design is approved, based on the design, I do my budget. And I itemize every single individual item. I mean, from the concrete you do, for the labor, all that gets put in a sheet. It's a spreadsheet for them. And then that gets approved by them, and then we sign that contract. At that point, I got to put together the team now to execute the design that we give in the client.
But you also tell them, like, it's going to take a month, and it, 4 employees, 5, and I got to pay them every day. You include that in the spreadsheet?
Yeah, you tell them the schedule. You tell them the budget and the schedule. The inner workings of how I manage the payments. I give a payment schedule for them. It's kind of milestones. When we complete, let's say, concrete groundwork, you give us so much. When we complete wood framing, you give us so much. When we complete, this phase, so much, and so on. And that's the way we charge. So those are the things that I learned prior my experience working at the firms. I would see how people bill and pay. And like I said, I was curious. I would look at contracts and so forth. So when I started, I at least had a leg up in knowing that process.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I would have, I'm sure if you didn't have that experience, you probably would have been like, I guess I collect everything now. I guess I collect everything at the end. And you got to buy materials. So you're going to be like, I'm going to be on the red for a long time.
That's a lot of business. Like just, doing contracts. And I took a business law class and I was like, man, some of that stuff can be complicated, right?
No, it's extremely complicated. Like I said, I think there's two types of people. The people that are just like, I have an idea. I'm going to start it now. I don't have all the details. I'll figure them along the way. And then there's people that are like, I have an idea. I want to figure out all the details before I get started. Unfortunately, I'm on the end that I just want to do something and then I'll throw myself in it. And there's drawbacks to that. Like you learn some hard lessons, but at the end of it, you get started, you push forward. And with the business aspect, every little detail I've learned along the way in the sense of the business. The creative I just naturally have, but the business has been learned.
Yeah, and I think that's says a lot about just creatives in general, because a lot of creatives get pushed. I mean, at least for myself, I never am really 100% satisfied with my work. I'm always like, I could have done that better. I could have done better, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. And a lot of creatives have that inside of them, right? Like we're just always looking to better ourselves. And it takes a lot of learning. A lot of people that are out there, like they're learning all the time. And that's awesome. But I want to talk a little bit about that project, because you showed up and you had like your business card. You came as prepared as you can. Were you bidding against other people?
For this project, no, it was just me. They had reached out to other individuals, to try to get, and they had met with 1 or 2 other people. But like I said, I think at the end of it, the way I present myself, the ideas I have, and God's grace, I always call, are present in that moment, and just they made it happen. You have to speak and walk in confidently. I had to pretend like I had done 10 of these already.
No, that's what we always do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you know how to do this?
Yeah. My brother actually, it's funny. He knew it was my first project, and he recommended that client because he worked with them. He said, "Take care of that client." I said, "Don't worry." But every time I didn't know something, I would go to my book, because I have a major book on construction methods and methodology. And because I said the design work I studied, but the construction I didn't. It was learned. So when I went and started doing it, I would say, I don't know how to do this. So I go to my book and I learn it. And my brother would make fun of me. He's like, you always go to your book. I was like, yep, that's how you learn.
That's how you learn. It's a never ending process.
But you do have to bid for jobs sometimes.
Yeah, I'm to get it. Now I bid up projects and competitively. Budget's the biggest I've done right now is $35 million. Not for me personally, but that I do for other clients. I'm extremely, so my skill set in 12 years has improved dramatically in bidding, but we compete a lot. And the good thing is I've been able to win these bids for other companies, So.
Yeah. And I remember you told me a story one time where they hired you on because this guy wanted to do a project and he asked you a question and he was like, hey, what did you learn in school? And then your answer was like, absolutely nothing. Yeah. I learned everything on the job. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah. One of a great client that I still work for this day. I had this interview. I had met with, it's funny, this process to meet some of these clients, you don't even meet them first. You meet their representative. So first I met the company that was going to work for them. They interviewed me. Great. We like you. And then I went to go meet the representative. He's like, great. We like you. Now you're going to meet the client. So I get to meet the client at his residence, beautiful bluff on the beach side. And he's like, so tell me about yourself. Intimidating guy, you could say. And I'm like, well, my name is Rudy.
Strong personality.
Yeah, extremely, and my name is Rudy. And I'm an architect, I'm a builder. I've been working for this in the past 12 years or so forth. And, I've done this project, and I gave my resume. And he's like, okay. He's like, what you learned in school? She's like, Andrew said. And I'm like, I'm going to be honest, nothing. I said, literally, to be clear, you get principles, you get your foundation and everything, but work experience is not replaceable. like being out there doing it, getting involved in it, doing a real project that becomes to fruition. That's how you become the person you are. And I actually think even the college system should change. I think you should go to school for like 2 years, and then 2 years should be in the job.
Like under someone almost. Like that's how they used to do it back then, right? In the Greek system.
In the Greek
culture,
systems,
like
and yeah.
you would, I mean, because jobs back then were like, I don't know, like sculpting and they were crazy jobs, but you would be, it was almost like an apprenticeship. And we were just talking about that with someone that you learn a lot on the job.
It's everything. So with this guy, when I mentioned that, what's funny in this interview, that actually got me the job because he was just a high school graduate and he's a multimillionaire. And he's like, yeah, I just graduated high school. So I understand what you're saying. You learn. So sometimes it's funny. I think people can do the disservice to themselves to think that I have my degree. That validates me. And again, as Christians, God just validates that. I mean, you don't have to have that. But what you do have to have is the work ethic, being out there learning. And that's what makes you who you are. So that got me the job. And I mean, I'll tell you that's been one of the most successful jobs I have to this day.
That's awesome. And what would you say to that person or the younger Rudy that says like, hey, like, I really want to get into the industry that you're in. I want to become in architecture. Obviously, there is school involved, right? Because a lot of the things that you have to do. But what would you say? What would be some advice you would give to that person?
In my career, I want to say I'm happy how I did it. If I could go back and say something, the degree, this is what the degree does. The degree opens the door because some of these higher places, they don't even look at you if you don't have a degree. Whether it's right or wrong, that's a different conversation, but that opened the door. Maybe I would have done more internships. Maybe I would have, worked a little, started my company 2 years before I graduated because that way I could have been up and running. I think that would have been what I would have told myself, but I felt like I did it in a good process to where I'm at now.
So I'm still tripping out about the fact that you have a whole project in your hands, right? Mm-hmm. With that comes a big responsibility. Are there any instances that you can talk to us about where things didn't turn out so great? Where maybe you had mistakes, you had failures, adversaries, anything like that?
Oh yeah, I got a book on that too. As I told you guys, the way I do things, because I go like a bull, I rush into them. So I started designing and building my own houses by myself 100%. And I was getting a lot of clients. There's one client, I won't say city, I won't say any location or the client themselves. But I started this project. It was a middle-sized project for me. I've done bigger things. From the beginning, I noticed that the client was extremely demanding. I'm used to that. It's not a problem. She had her twerks and so forth. And then I started the projects. Everything was going. We have consistent meetings with the architect and so forth. And that was all moving forward. But we started running into little hiccups. Like she'd be like, I don't like this. Can you change it? And we'd be like, I'm very accommodating. No problem. We'll change it. And then that language started happening in every meeting. Can we change this? Can we change that? Can we change this? And it just kept going over and over and over to the point where it just got so stressful for us, as a whole. And I was just like, we can't do this anymore. And it got stressful for her because she wasn't feeling like she was getting taken care of and she fired us. It was the first job I had ever lost. Like every client we've always accommodated. But the worst part is then we get a letter 7 months later and we're getting sued.
Oh, man.
So, let's just say, talk about challenging, being in a business world. Now I'm getting my first lawsuit. I'm into this maybe 5 years in my career. So, that was an extremely huge drawback to the point where I was like, could I have done something differently? Did I do it wrong? And to tell you, I'm on the other side and I'm still moving forward. But that's just one of the many, and that's probably the biggest one I've had to face. But yeah, definitely, you do face your drawbacks.
And did going through this lawsuit, did it affect you in any way? Like, because obviously that's just a heavy burden, and you're not talking about a lawsuit of a couple $100.
Right, because it takes time, money, but it also takes time, right?
It takes mindset. It takes time. It takes money. It takes all of the above. I mean, it was to say that it's funny. I got the news when I was at Disneyland with my family. I get this email and I open my emails. I shouldn't open them everywhere, but I do. And I got it, and it was just so draining to me mentally that day where it just affected me. I'll tell you, at the end of it, you see God's hand in it, because let alone am I not calmer about life in general, because just like God gives us everything, He's the only one that has the right to take it away. So if it would have all been taken away, He's the one that can return it back again. So my mentality grew in my faith in that area where I'm like, it's just my business. Like literally, like I'm telling you, I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm really a hard worker, but I was just, that's my business. So I learned to trust God a lot. And then I learned to say no. So as an entrepreneur, lesson a lot of people tell me, sometimes you make more money off of the people you say no to. So now I'm not greedy for every project. I'll talk to somebody. I'll be like, yeah, if it's worth my headache, I'm going to overcharge you. And if you say yes, then it's worth it. But if not, I'm just going to walk away. And that's the lessons that I've learned, to walk away. And even the way I structure my contracts and everything in my protection is a lot different. So lesson learned, and it happened early enough in my career where I didn't have enough. Like now I have a little bit more, but I protect myself a lot more.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting how you said that you've learned lessons along the way, because a lot of people, I think the lessons that we learn are always on the worst parts of our lives. Like when life is great and when life is doing amazing, like, I don't know, like you're just strolling through. But when life comes and hits you hard, then you're just like, all right, God, what is this? And I mean, my pastor says this all the time. He's like, when you go through a difficult situation, you can go two ways. You can either get closer to God or you can get further away from God. And the fact that, as believers, we take the opportunity to say, you know what, like I'm going to leave this in God's hands, I think is huge. And a lot of your creative designs, I've seen some of them, and every time I see them, I'm like, oh my gosh. I remember you showed me a video one time and you were just like, I was like, why is there a coffee maker I think it was like a walk-in closet. And then you're just like, because they can, because they can. And talk a little bit about just like, I would say the type of clients you work for. Obviously these clients are not your everyday Joes. A lot of these clients, I would say, I mean, you would categorize them at the 1%, right? Yeah.
1%, definitely.
That's pretty crazy.
How does faith play a role in your business, in your job, and how you deal with clients and even your employees?
As a believer, it's central. I mean, like I'm telling you, it's like I tell people, do you go and profess your faith to everybody and say, I'm a Christian and I'm an architect and look.
Do you have the fish?
Yes, really... in the car, right?
On the back of your truck.
Or tatted on me. There you go. No, I tell people, it is, if you are Christ believing, living your life for holiness and seeking God's heart in every moment, that reflects within you, in your demeanor, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak, in the way you're around. I'm working in a world where, yes, the majority aren't Christian, in my world, from the construction workers all the way to my clients. And it's the way I carry myself, the way even my job sites, I don't get angry. My job is extremely stressful and I'm irresponsible. Everybody comes to me. There is no guy above me that says, you messed up. If something happens, I'm in charge. So, but the way I manage it, I never lose it. I don't get angry. I don't yell at people. I run meetings in control. I'm efficient. I'm kind. And I tell people, it doesn't matter. I'll go eat lunch with the workers or I'll go eat lunch with my clients. I treat them all the same. And people notice that. Like, they're like, hey, you're not like the other guy. Like, he never talks to us or he never says, hi. And then, and when the client's around, like, they never introduced us. If I meet a client, I'm like, this is so-and-so. This is so-and-so. And that's Jesus. Like it says, in the sense, you love everybody equally, you treat everybody, you look at them equally. It doesn't matter color, race, height, type, financial status. That's how I do it.
Yeah, and that's huge. Inclusion. You just include everyone. Jesus did that. Yeah. Like he would have dinner with the worst of the worst, and that's really cool.
You give them a name.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the way I was raised, or I find it so upsetting when, you know, there's a room group full of people and someone doesn't say hi, and it just throws me off. I'm just like, wait, like, you know, did I do something? I don't know, right? Like
there's clients, and like I said, I walk in and I meet the client. They don't know who I am in the sense initially of what I do for them. They won't look at me. They will look beyond me. They would look at what they consider the most important person in the room. So I've experienced, like you said, people talk about prejudice or moments like that. I've experienced it. But, you know, it's like I said, when you're grounded in your faith and you know who you are, none of that affects you, you know? And that's why I go, I'm not going to do that, you know? And every time you gain those people's respect, they end up figuring out, like I said, Jesus brings anybody to their knees. Like literally, guys, and I've seen it. And I don't care who you are, how much money you made. Like I said, you walk in that authority, it happens. It happens every day. You know?
Yeah. And during this time that you've worked with multiple clients, we're kind of in a global pandemic, I would say. Like
kind of,
yeah. To say the least,
you know, to say the least. And how has this pandemic affected your work?
Unfortunately, it has. We have clients, international clients. We have clients that are here. All my clients, just, you know, I will always, fortunately, for those people, they always have the economy to continue the project, but they do make decisions. And some of them have decided to pull their money back and hold it. So some of our projects have gone on hold, you know, because they're saying, I put the project on hold now. I can save money and I can do more with my money when this thing crashes, you know. So that's the prediction these guys are all giving me. So 2 of our projects, I've literally been told, you're just going to build to phase 2 and we're going to stop. One of my projects is in legal ramifications, but it'll get started soon. But the client has reduced his budget, you know, and other clients are just not calling us as much. So definitely to say my workload has decreased when it first happened. But like I said, my economy is always, I tell people, my economy is based on what God has for me. And since the slowdown happened, I've still picked up new clients now. You know, so like I said, it did slow down in the sense their decisions, but God's just giving me other revenues, you know, and other ideas to create and continue the revenue stream going. So for me, I'm okay, but there is ramifications that you're seeing are happening.
He always provides, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. It's huge. What's kind of like next for you? Because I mean, we have conversations all the time. I mean, I went to your house for a date night. And it was awesome. We watched the Laker game.
Sushi.
We saw them eat sushi. We saw them lose.
Did you design your own house?
No, I actually just got my house a year ago,
nice.
But we're already in the process. He makes fun of me. I built a tree house for my kids, and he's like, "So have you?" And I have a garden, and I'm doing all these things, and Andrew always makes fun of my garden. But no, I literally, we already have plans to do a remodel and designs, and we've done little basic things to it, but it'll become something eventually.
Yeah, and you want to build your own house eventually, right?
Yeah, people have this misconception that for an architect builder, it's easy. It's just so much money. California's expensive, as you guys know. You know, and the permit process is expensive. So for me to build a house, let's say a regular house, I would be paying $100,000 in permits alone. Like if I want to build a house that's like 2,000 square feet, which is not big.
Well, it's almost like here in LA, I mean, I would say a good house, right? That most people long to have, right? I'm not talking about like crazy big, but just long to have. It's like minimum $1 million, right? Like bare minimum, bro.
Yeah. I mean, you go to some of the communities here, like we said, 600. I think now it's like 600, 700, like minimum for houses.
Crazy.
In LA, so.
That's
crazy. There's houses like in, you know, I don't want to say the ghetto, but like in the not the most greatest neighborhoods that are at 800,000. I'm like, what? And they're tiny.
You're like, how's this 800,000?
Guys, stop coming to LA, please. We are fully booked.
Yeah.
Go elsewhere.
Yeah, don't come to LA. But what's next in your career? I mean, there's a lot of projects that I know that you probably are working on and things you want to accomplish.
So I have a couple ventures. Some things I can't disclose right now because they're literally in negotiations. But I want to grow. Now I'll say this. For me, my job is important. Being an architect is important. Being a builder is important. But I do love ministry. Like, I mean, as much as you guys, I mean, we do this to supply for our families. And I have a background. My parents are pastors. You know, they grew up in ministry. My sister's a pastor. You know, my brother's pretty involved in ministry as well. So my goal is to have my business to provide. but eventually I do want to go to ministry. So I'll give that caveat first, but right now what we're doing is my popularity with these clients is growing. I'm more in demand. Like I'm kind of known in the area for what I do. And like I said, before I would design and build it. Now these people just want to call me because they're saying, Rudy, I just want you to manage and build my house because you know all the details. Because of my background of being an architect, construction managing, and builder, I look at a set of plans. And like I said, and I'm not comparing myself to this guy at all. Leonardo da Vinci that would do it all. Like I understand a little bit of engineering, a little bit of the art, So now I become an expert, in the field of just building houses. And I look at these plans and I help architects out. And my projects last from 2 to 3 years. So now, based on what my bookings are, I'm booked all the way through 2022, in projects. And from there, that contract I'm negotiating is probably going to last another 5-6 years after that. I'm set.
Wow.
Like I don't have to go look for more work, So that's, in my career-wise, that's kind of my plan and my passion. And then I have little side projects. I want to do other businesses. So, I don't know what those are. We have a dream of doing a cafe. And I want to design it out, have a feeling like an Earth Cafe. My wife loves organic food and
we'll be there, bro.
There you go.
We'll support you. Yeah. I know your wife does love
so
organic.
she wants to do an organic menu and I want to do a cool setting because if you have good food in a nice place where people enjoy being at, that's a great combination. But that's kind of the plan.
That's kind of LA for you. A lot of people.
That's so LA.
I was going to say that's your wife, because your wife is not from the US, but she became very LA.
Yeah, she's actually, I think I've been an influence. I'm LA my whole life, guys. I mean, I was born in East LA and then I grew up in the Valley and then I work on the West Side right now. So I have a good sense. And as much as people want to move out of LA, I love LA.
I love LA too.
Right, so
this is home, baby.
LA is home.
This is my place.
Where are you gonna go? Where you have the beach, you have the desert, you have the snow, you have the city. Come on now.
Exactly.
It's just everything.
But that's interesting that you mentioned that because I have a friend at my church. He's one of the pastors. And he's a contractor, but the church really wanted him on staff. Like they wanted him to be a pastor on staff. And he was like, but I'm a contractor. Like this is my job, this is my income. And somehow they convinced him. So now what he does is in the morning, he goes and checks up on his projects, makes sure everything's good. Then he goes to church and does his pastoral work.
I mean, our calling, it's our calling, it's our calling to get people saved. And you can do it in different ways. I grew up in that church setting, and I had a lot of friends that went to Life. I mean, I was in Foursquare, very involved. And for me, I always had the mentality, and I told my mom, it's okay. I want to be a professional, and I want to do ministry. I want to bring both worlds together because I think a lot of times, and this is no criticism whatsoever, sometimes we're stuck just in the church world, and that's all the people we're surrounded with. And I think it limits our ability to minister to other people. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And when you go to school, like you experience a little more stuff and you see different types of personalities and people, but you also have this grounded faith. It just allows you, like I said, to see a little more, to be able to speak, to understand, what people go through, how they go through and minister to their lives. So that's kind of my take.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that, I mean, I've been in both sides. Like I've been in the place where I was just strictly hanging out with, I would say, Christians and like just direct circle of the church, right? The church circle. And I couldn't relate to anyone outside of church. Like I felt like I was just simply, this is the lingo, right? And I think that is a huge thing because I believe that we deserve more professionals out there in those fields. I
once heard someone say, oh, the world is so bad right now. I wish we could just, have a community where it's just Christians and, it's all nice and dandy. I'm like, okay, that's when you have it wrong. Because I'm like, the message is for us, we're not a part of this world, but we got to be there. I mean, who's going to be the light if it's not us?
Jesus ain't coming back till everybody hears the word.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that if you guys want this to finish or get better, preach the word and get it out there, right?
Yeah, if you want Jesus to get back, you got to preach the word.
You got to get out there. So, but to give you guys that the aspect and the importance of ministry, I respect that guy who's a contractor and does it back. And eventually, I think you can do both. I think you can be what's called my parents did it. Bivocational. Yeah, they did it for, my dad just retired like 2-3 years ago, and they've been at their church for 25 years. So he did the bivocational thing, and I saw him. Wake up at 5 a.m., come at 3, and then let's head to church.
Did your family go to Life?
No, my brother went there for one semester, and my sister never went to Life, and I'm actually a Foursquare licensed minister.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
High five.
So there you go.
High five. Air five.
Air five now, yeah. Yeah, so I'm a Foursquare licensed minister. I got my staff license, now 12 years maybe ago.
Oh, wow.
So I'm up for being ordained. I haven't done it yet, but that would be the night. And my wife's in the process, So, again, she's an engineer. I'm an architect. But we believe God's work is important, and to do it with excellence. I mean, I love creatives and arts. And in our church, I used to do backgrounds, and, Andrew knows, and I used to be part of the creative team. And then my career kind of has taken off. So I'm more a little hands off, but I still do the remodel here, the design and the remodel of this place, so I'm trying to balance that out, and figure out. But I do tell people, I tell them, if you get this right, if your focus is ministry, God takes care of the rest. That's how it goes.
Yeah. And it's true. It's very true.
I think that's a 3-pointer to end it there.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic.
And where can people find your work, Rudy?
I have so like I said, I'm pretty booked, but I do have a website, OBED Group. It's obedgrp.com. You can go check that out, or you can actually there's another link that's called the ropdesign.com. I'm on Instagram too. You can go there as OBED Group, and I'm on Facebook. So you can get my work there to see what I've done. But I don't even advertise. Like I'm fortunate enough that I have my client base now, and I'm just saying, God, what do you want next? So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
But to end us off, we do have our last question. How much of your success and everything that you've been able to accomplish, how much do you attribute that to your hard work, your talents, and how much of that do you attribute to God's blessing and Him opening doors?
Easy one. God's grace 100%. I tell people, without that grace or God's hands and blessing in my life, none of it will be possible. And just so you guys know, one of the aspects that people don't talk a lot about, in my heart, I've told God, I want a lot because I want to give a lot, and that's always been our heart. And even with tithing, the way we tithe now is like, before I was a little different. I don't tithe after taxes. I just tithe before, and some people go, oh, ouch. But,
I do the same though.
That's what I'm saying.
I do.
And
and the way we get taxed in California, that's a big chunk. But I've never failed to see God's hand because we continue to do it. And I can tell you guys, in my 12-year career, it's not like you get, that 1% raise every year. God's been like, Rudy, here's 20% raise. Here's 40% raise. Here's 100% raise. And I'm not asking or seeking it. His hand is present. So, I mean, it's 100% God's grace in your life. You work hard and you have the ethic to work and you show up to work every day. You can do that just like the person that, and no offense, goes to work to Target every day or, a gas station. They're working every day. If their hard work and ethic is there, but they're not seeking God, that grace won't be there. You're not going to find the success, And for me, that's the answer. When I'm in a meeting, God's hand is there. When I'm seeking a new client, God's hand is there. And like he says, whatever it's yes for, He'll give me. Whenever He doesn't, He'll take away.
I love that though. I want a lot so that I can give a lot. What a concept.
Mind blowing. But thank you so much for your time, Rudy.
Thank you, guys.
Really, really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man, but other than that, let's go Dodgers.
Let's see.
Dodgers,
2-1. We'll see. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time
but
today.
we wish you the best of success, and thank you so much.
Same to you guys.